Hello and welcome to the stream. I'm Riley Harvey for V-Cycling News, and this is the Thursday night PRT handicap race. I'll go through the rules quickly for the handicap race for those who haven't seen one before. The reason it's called a handicap race is because several of the riders are handicapped. Some have a benefit from the handicap system. We run a handicap race which the intention of it is to level the playing field somewhat. The riders who've got a higher FTP and are stronger, let's say fitter riders than some of the others on the course, they work out their weight for this event by taking a recent FTP, dividing it by 3.2, and then they enter that figure into the weight category for RGT. So they change their weight for this race. If they're fitter, they become heavier, and if you're a slightly weaker rider, perhaps you're maybe recovering from injury, or perhaps you don't ride as much and you haven't got the opportunity to increase your FTP as much as you'd like to, you go the opposite way. So you become a lighter rider for this event. Two reasons for this. One is that the fitter riders obviously get to increase their weight, but it gives them more competition. It means that the playing field is leveled somewhat, and it gives them more competition. They're racing against more riders and can make it more interesting. That the lighter riders, they go lighter, makes it more interesting for them. Also means that the whole of the field generally finishes it within quite a tight timing of each other. So it's not one of these races where you'll get the elite group flying off the front of the race and they'll finish 15-20 minutes, sometimes half an hour before some of the weaker riders towards the rear of the field. You will find that most of the riders finish within a pretty tight grouping of each other. There are occasions when some of the riders, maybe as technical dropouts or other issues, they're finishing further back in the field. But in general, they are fairly close together, which is really good. Gives everyone a chance to be up there aiming for the podium, and keeps everyone involved. The other thing with this race that's worth mentioning is that the combativity award is a really important feature of this race. It's not just getting on the podium. Of course, that matters. Everyone's interested in making it to the podium, being up there first, second, third place. But what is really important about this race is the community and the spirit that goes into it. The combativity award is voted for by everyone that's on the course. They get on the social media and they vote for who they think deserves the combativity award, which makes it really important, because it's not just the fact that you've made it to the end. You've made a difference to someone else's ride. They've seen the effort that you put in, the way that you've bridged the gap, the fact that you've dragged them for hundreds of meters through the course, the way that you've supported them going up a hill. They've voted for you for that combativity award, so it makes it more important than just making it to the podium. Also, because it's a handicap race, you do get some people who perhaps have not understood how to handicap themselves properly. So you do on occasion get riders who are flying off the front. All of the results are analysed afterwards. Will, who puts on this race every week and is a phenomenal race organiser, he goes through those results with a fine-tooth comb, and there is a modified results that goes out on the Facebook pages and through the WhatsApp group that's associated with this race. I'll have a quick look at the course. We are on Cat Foreman Tour, one of the real roads in RGT. Fantastic race, fantastic course to race. I've been on this course many times in the past myself, in real life and on RGT, and absolutely love it. You start off on the parade outside of the cafes, right in the centre of Porta Pollenza. There's a flat section there, which really allows everybody to get absolutely flying. Before you come down to the end of the parade of shops, and you take a hard left, hard right through that parade, back onto the road. I think it's the M10 there, usually well surface road, and you head out towards the lighthouse of Formentor. Two major climbs on this, the tunnel climb, the initial climb to the lookout point, which in my opinion is the more aggressive, it's the more difficult of the two climbs, but in some ways I find it easier. It's got a more steady gradient, and so you can really select your gear and you can go for it on that climb. really put the power down, get the watts out there. You're going to see a lot of breaking up on that section. The group's going to fragment. The guys who've been taken the penalty, the weight penalty, they're obviously going to struggle again up that climb. Anyone that's ever pushed a car, they'll know that when you're pushing the car on the flat, you can get up a nice level of knots, so the weight's not going to affect you on the flat. But as soon as you go uphill, this is where these handicap races really come into their own. When you get up those hills, it then means that people with the weight are starting to suffer somewhat there, and you'll see them slow down. The lighter guys who are benefiting the other way from the weight reduction, they are going to find that they fly up that, and they're going to get to the top a lot quicker than some of the heavier riders, some of the potentially fitter riders. So it's really important that you go up there as quick as you can. Well, it's important you cover every part of the course as quick as you can. So you climb that, you go down. There's some hairpins on the descent. Important to attack the hairpins coming out of the descents there as much as you possibly can. Again, with the auto braking and RGT, these are places where you can get that benefit. People go in with the braking, and you'll find that you can judge yourself, get yourself well timed to make an attack coming out of one of those hairpins, and really make a break for it. Second climb is the tunnel climb. This starts from, essentially it starts from the beach at Camp Formentor Beach. So you will be climbing all the way from there up through the tunnel. The problem with this climb, unlike the first one, is on paper it should be an easier climb. It's slightly gentler, but in my opinion, because it's got so many variants in the gradients, you can't ever really pick out the correct gear. You just seem to be constantly switching gears, changing back and forth, up and down, and not really finding the tempo on that climb, which can put you off, and it can make it difficult for you to really attack that one. Go through the tunnel, out into the bright sunshine on the other side, up to the top, slight descent before the final section, the final bit of a kicker at the end, up to the actual lighthouse itself. Some really interesting sections on this course, and it's really fun to ride. I've done it, I think, 4 times in real life. I can't count the number of times I've done it on RGT, but it is great to have done it in real life and to see how well it compares. We're underway, and we see the usual watt bombs dropping at the beginning of this course. The PRT team there in the black and yellow kit, heading towards the front. Ollie Perkins there, racing in 5th position at the moment. He races, his granddad races, Barry Wilson races as well. Ollie Perkins, a young rider, carries a tremendous weight penalty on most of the courses because he's got quite a high FTP for his size. Will Usher being picked out there, position 7. Will, we'll see how he goes. He's been returning to fitness in the last few weeks. He's had a little bit of a break from his training and enjoying some social time, and he's been just getting back into it. Been doing a lot of his swimming recently. I noticed he did 3,200 meters the other day, which absolutely killed me. But he's back in the training. Quite often Will hide in the wheels. He loves a good draft, and then when it comes to the last little part of the course, he will jump out and drop a massive watt bomb up at 1,400 watts and drop everyone in the sprint. So we see there, and we've got Steve Shrubsall out at the front there, with Darren Ray, I think it is, just behind him from Team Lou. Steve Shrubsall's been undergoing some extensive training with Will recently, and has been upping his FTP as much as he can. And it looks like it's yielding some dividends there, as we've got Ludlow from PRT and Rob Marshall there, just trying to make that gap, bridge that gap up to the 2 riders at the front. You see in this group here we've got Ray Usher, and we've got Wayne, another of the PRT riders. You see in the distance there, we've got the Tramontana Mountains that we're heading towards. It's a fantastic little mountain range that runs all across the north spine of Mallorca. Any of you riders from further afield who haven't been to Mallorca, it is well worth the trip. It's really well set up for riders. They appreciate the currency that the cyclists bring into the country, and there is a trip that you can go on across the whole of the Tramontana Mountains. You can go from Puerto Polenta in a coach. They'll take you down to Andrax, which is on the other end of the island, and you can ride all the way back down the coast, the north end of the island, over these fantastic little climbs, all the way back up to Puerto Polenta. And if you're feeling extremely fit, you can continue on up to the Formentor Lighthouse, where we're going to today. So going through the field here. So we've got Marshall, O'Grady, and Will Deegan in this little group. K McFly Vetta there, who puts on some series races in the morning. Mackie, Willisher, Salvato, and Guy Hepner in this group. Let's pick out a few of the names there. We've still got Darren Ray and Steve Shrubsall up in the front there, slowly opening up a little bit more of a gap there. I'll drop back a little bit in the group. Back of this group, see who we've got further back. Shane there, we've got Luke Elling there, making a return to the PRT Thursday nights for the first time in a while. Had a little break. Wainwright, Martins, and Barry Wilson, who I mentioned a little while ago. Just go around this roundabout, back onto the paved boulevard. As you see Bovary there, just trying to make the jump to that slightly bigger group in front. Bovary pushing out 3.7 watts per kilogram there, trying to make that bridge. You see the power that the riders are putting out up in the top left-hand corner of the screen. And then at the moment you can see we've got the rider with Wainwright there pushing out 180 watts. But you can see below that, in the middle of the screen, middle of that top menu, you can see the saving in green. They're drafting behind Lou Gelling there, and they're saving around about 70 watts a lot of the time. So we're going through this hard left right here. Oops, going through the building as well. So you see the riders going through this left hand into a hard right hander here. And those two turns will have activated the auto braking, making that a little bit of a difficult turn to make, is maintain a grouping. If you get one of the riders pushing hard off the front, they can snap the elastic on you there. There's not too much of a distance between these two groups. It's only 30 meters. I think they may struggle to bridge together. Turn right here now, and not much more of this flat now. It turns into a little bit of a false flat area here. I think it's flat, but it's just slightly inclined. See, that incline has allowed Martins to jump off the front of this group and make the bridge. Lou Gelling, a fantastic climber. Last time I've raced with her, she's always performed well on the climbs. Always put me to the sword on the climbs, that's for sure. We'll see where this, as these gradients increase, whether she'll make that bridge herself. I think she's going to just jump on the wheel of Wainwright there. This group will come back into one mass pack. And a little bit further back here, we've got Hassart. He's leading a group of bots here. Putting in the watts here to try and get himself back up with the grouping of the live riders. One thing that Will does do with a lot of these races is he puts in a group of bots that they're generally lower powered bots. For anyone that's joining in the race and perhaps they're coming back from injury, they're doing recovery, they still want to take part, there'll be some lower powered bots to, ideally they're intended to cover the last third of the race. They won't get in the mix with the faster riders towards the front, but the slightly slower racers, they'll keep them company at the back and give a wheel to draft and give some company. But Norberto, one of the popular robots there, with De Jong and Gilbert. We've got Ian Hurst there in the Team 3R kit, just off the back of this group. I have a fresh grouping of the bots there. I think all these bots and real riders are going to group back together. See Robin Druitt there, one of our older participants, time trialist. Great rider. And Tom Smith's in that group as well there. I think that's number 67. I think it's Pedro Apiago, Welsh rider. I hope I pronounced that name right. So just going into these slopes now. Slight difference when you're attacking this on your turbo trainer is that you can get your fan on you and you can really set your temperature when you're out there doing it in Mallorca. Quite often one of the reasons that you go over there is for the warmth, but it can be a little bit of a little bit of a pain going out on these climbs when you've got 30-degree heat. Drinking water like it's going out of fashion. Towards the back of the group here we've got Silvestri in 71st position there. I think Silvestri may be the last of our real riders. We'll just drop back now. I can see Macaulay, 77th. Pedro. We've got Bev Usher there. And Appleby. Appleby's a little bit late off the line there. Been perhaps had a little technical at the beginning, so they're pushing out enough power that they should be with one of those other groups, but they are quite far back in the race there. We'll jump back forward and we'll go all the way up to the leaders now, and we see the swapped now. We've gone onto these inclines. We're up at 6.2%, and Ludlow PRT races, pushing out 3.7 watts per kilogram. Ludlow, Martins, Darren Ray, and Steve Shrubsall there in the group. Darren Ray's just being passed there by Steve Shrubsall. Grady and Ollie Perkins and Wayne just slightly behind there. I know Grady makes the bridge up to this little group. See how the weights are starting to affect these riders. Some of the stronger riders, the heavier weights, just dropping back slightly. So we're heading up to the first point now, which is the lookout point. It's, quite often where I stop and have a breather, get my breath back. No such luck for these riders. They'll be ploughing straight through. Down into the descent and through and on to the second climb. So Shrubsall there just going backwards on the climb. 10th. He's being picked up by Guy Hepner, Will Usher, and I think that's Rob Marshall. I'll see if the wheels offer him any respite. You can see there on these climbs, these gradients, the wheels are only offering about 8 watts of a draft saving. Darren there just pushes on, puts an effort in, digging to stay with those wheels. Doesn't want to get distanced anymore. Wayne, another one of the PR2 crew there, cranking away in 16th position. Jump back forward again. And Ludlow opening a gap up there. He is 78 metres over Marty, who's chasing hard. Marty and Martin's grouped together. Ludlow's around about halfway up this climb now. So we can see now on the gradient bar at the bottom, there's the whole profile of the ride going across the bottom of the screen there. Halfway up, the red areas are the steeper gradients. I think anything above 5% ends up in that red area. 5% all the way through till 25%, which is usually the maximum that any trainer can replicate, depending on your weight, of course. Orange ones are that sort of middle ground of around about 3% through to I think it's 5 or 6. Green is your lower gradients, 0 through to, as I said, about 3%. And then you've got the pale blue and darker blue stroke purple colours, which are indicating the descents. The bits that we all enjoy, but are all unfortunately over a little bit too quickly. Marty now just making a little breakaway from Martins. First, second and third. Shown on the screen there. And Bovary not too far away. He's closing fast on Martins there. He's pushing out 4.5 watts per kilogram. So the idea of the formula that we employ on the handicap races is that ideally your maximum is going to be 3.2 watts per kilogram. Your maximum average is going to work out at 3.2 watts per kilogram. It's not an exact science. There is some flexibility in this. Depending on the course layout, we'll put in a little bit of flexibility, and it can be related to how much you're standing out of the saddle, because most people's FTP for a standing effort is actually different to their FTP for a seated effort. So you can get more flexibility in those ways, but generally your average should be around about 3.2. We're seeing some high figures here from the racers as they are going up these climbs. They're going to be burying themselves up the climb, and then they'll be putting virtually no effort on the descent, and that will bring their average down overall. We wouldn't expect them to be able to put out this sort of power with these weights that they're carrying all the way to the end of the course. Going up something like Stelvio in a handicap race would be a very punishing affair. So having rode this course in real life and rode it on RGT, as I say, too many times to count, it is very good in recreating the effect of the gradients, and generally the scenery. It's quite good to pick out little bits that you remember. You're going around at these barriers, and we'll be seeing them on some of the descents. The barriers there are very interesting sometimes when you're heading down, and your brakes perhaps not catching as much as you'd like when you're heading towards one of these little flimsy timber barriers. Can make you reconsider how fast you descend. See now Ludlow and Martins there have swapped the lead, as we see Marty and Bovary are closing in on them, and the distance now to Martin's 30 meters. Ludlow still just holding on to his wheel, not letting him quite break away. Martins goes into his deep red, his bright red section there, as he's pushing out all of the watts that he can muster. And in the distance, we can see the top of this climb. You just see a banner indicating the lookout point there. As Marty has he's putting in a sprint here. He's up at 9 watts per kilogram for a moment there. As Martin's 9 watts per kilogram to open up the gap on Ludlow. He knows if he gets over this and onto the descent, as individual descenders, they are not going to be able to close that gap on him. He's going to open it up to 100 meters plus. And that's it can be very, very soul destroying for a rider when they see that someone's opening up that sort of a distance on them. See, Ludlow, Overy and Marty are going to group together to come over this crest together. And descending in a group should give them the ability to close down on Martin somewhat, even if they're not making an effort to take turns themselves. Just the natural churning action of the riders going through will help them to close that gap on Martins. See, Overy and Ludlow gone over together there. Marty just been dropped off there. And Overy putting in an effort, and he's dropping Ludlow. Ludlow saving his energy here. He's barely putting out any watts on this descent. You see that when we go around one of these hairpins, if you have a look in the top left hand corner at the rider power, you can see Ludlow currently pushing out 153 watts. Going around a slight left hand bend here. Ludlow's putting in some watts there. You see his power's gone to red there as he went round the corner, and that indicates that the RGT is kicking in its auto braking feature, which slows you down on these corners. As I was saying before, you can be a little bit carefree on these descents, trying to make the most of it. But heading towards these barriers, you would definitely in real life just have a think about things, think about how well your brakes are working, and make sure that you brake well in advance. Ludlow's just distancing these two riders on a slight incline, slight climb, and we go back into a drop now. We'll nip back, have a look at the other battles going on the road. See O'Grady, Deegan and Perkins there into the descending. They're just coming into this slight plateau section, and see if any of the riders make an effort here to distance the other. Perkins putting a little bit of a dig there. I think these three riders are going to group together and continue this descent as a unit. Alvato, missed him earlier on as we ran through the field. He's 81 meters back off the Perkins-Deegan group. I think he'll struggle to close that gap solo. Just nice to see the hairpins on the road there. You can see in the distance there, you've got the group that Salvato's chasing. Guy Hepner. Guy Hepner's a very strong rider. He's usually at the front of these races battling for the win. Back in 9th position at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him making some major gains on the next climb. Quite often carrying a big handicap up. I think he's up around about the 25 kilo mark, Guy. Maybe confirm that on the race radio later. So predicted earlier on, Lou Gelling there, up in 10th position from earlier positions. She, fantastic climber, and as I say, she's always put me to the sword. I think I've been doing well in a race, and then we'll hit a hill, and Lou will go flying past me if I'm standing still. Rob Marshall keeping a company there in 11th position. Further back down here now, we've got Darren Ray. He's in a good position there in 13th with Laser and Jones. Bear, FaZe and Wayne, PRT crew there, 19th position. Wayne, known for his explosive starts off on these races. We refer to him as the Wayne train. He's trying to stick to his wheel as he pushes out 12, 13 watts per kilogram off these starts. Harrison, a little bit of no man's land there. He's got 120 meters to the FaZe group in front of him. We see, the Shrubsall Usher group there, closing him down quickly. Putting in some effort on the descent there. You see Will Usher's putting in some power. Sticking with Steve Shrubsall's wheel there and rolling through. He's still sticking on the wheel. Expecting him to roll through there. This pair working together hard on the descent to cover up some of the distance. Rhea, Usher, 23rd position. Mackie in 24th. Closely followed by Hurst and Forster. And then we've got De Jong, Shane, 28th position. I was racing against Shane in these races last year. A good rider. Group there with Hassart, Walker, McFly and Iago. So McFly, sorry, he's distanced in that group. McFly's back 230 meters back. Then we've got Barry Wilson and Steve-O. And then we've got Tom Smith. We've got Barbosa and Pedro, Portuguese riders working together there. A little further back, we've got Bev Usher and Robin Druitt there. They've joined forces, working together. They've managed to drop the bots. Bring him back here. We have one live rider further back on the course. Bawley. Murray in 79th position. It looks like Murray started late there. I didn't see them earlier on. And Appleby, 80th position there. They're just coming up to the top of this first climb. It gives you a chance to see how well rendered these courses are. This is one of the real roads from RGT, so it's faithfully recreated of the actual roads in Mallorca. Unlike the real roads, which just use generic scenery, this is as close as they can make it to the actual scenery of the area. So we'll fly back up to the front of the race. See Ludlow and Martin still battling it out. And they've covered some of the slightly steeper parts of this initial climb, and they're into a more level area. See Bovary and Marty there, not giving up the battle yet. They're grouping back together with Martins. And we've got the Deegan group. They're quite a bit back here now, 370 meters. Deegan, Perkins and O'Grady. Nice, still in no man's land there. So 135 meters off that next group. I think with these slightly easier inclines, we're going to see Guy make some progress on that group in front of him. The increased weight on these handicaps, as I sort of said at the beginning, if anyone's ever pushed a car out there trying to get a car moving, when you're on the flat, it's quite easy to get a car moving with its wheels. You can push that huge weight, get it up to a reasonable speed. As soon as that hits any kind of an incline, you soon find out that that car wants to stop pretty quickly. And it's the same with the handicap races. The riders who are handicapped with the higher weights, they can get themselves moving on the flat, and they can get up to a pretty decent speed. The weight isn't so much of a penalty on the flat. As soon as you hit an incline, that's when the difference occurs. And that's why when we're looking at the handicap races, if you're looking back at any of the handicap races that we've done previously, that we've covered previously on V-Cycling News, and you're looking at any of the ones going forwards, you will always see hills in them. Forgive me, I just caught myself out there. You will usually see hills in them. I believe that one of the plans coming up for the future is to use 8-bar crit racing course as a possibility. You don't have hills in that. It is one of the flattest courses around. I think there's 0.1 meters of elevation in the whole of the 8-bar crit course. That was the Tempelhof race circuit as it is now known. It was originally brought into RGT as the 8-bar crit course because of an association with the 8-bar crits. It's now known as the Tempelhof course. And as I say, I think there's 0.1 of a meter of elevation in there, but what it lacks in elevation, it makes up for in corners, and the corner braking is activated on almost all of the corners throughout that course. And the same way that it happens on the hills, if you're a heavier rider and you hit corner braking, you have to put in a lot of effort to get yourself back up to speed again. If you're a lighter rider, it does give that option to accelerate quicker out of those corners and allow those brakes to happen. So that may be happening in one of the future handicap races, to see how that pans out and to see how it works for the format. And dropping back there, we just saw that Guy did make that catch of that group. So I expect Guy will be working with this group for a little while now, and then he will make an effort to jump off the front of this group and catch up with the riders in front. It's just going to be catching his breath there after making that big effort to group together. Further back there, we've got Jones just breaking away from this group behind him. We've got the Lou Gelling, Laser, Rob Marshall, Maguire, and Salvato, who was solo a little while ago. He's managed to group up with these guys. Further back on the course, got 15th and 16th position here. Gilbert and Wainwright, and they're being reeled in now by Shrubsall, who was with Will Usher, but he's dropped Will Usher and Wayne by 80 meters now, and bridged up to Wainwright and Gilbert here. Not quite made the catch as yet. For those new to the platform, the drafting isn't the same as some of our competitor platforms, some of the competitor platforms which have, let's say, a fuzzy logic about the draft, and they have quite a sticky draft. RGT being server based, it knows exactly where all of the riders are. It knows how close they are to each one of the riders, exactly to the millimeter, so it can accurately recreate the draft. So whereas some of the other platforms may dock you into that draft a little bit sooner, with RGT you have to be really concentrating. It keeps you more engaged, makes you pay more attention all the time to the actual riding that you're doing, to the screen that you're supposed to be watching, because you need to make sure that you maintain that distance to get that draft. See, Shrubsall has just made the catch, got sat into the draft before we hit an incline, and he's been slowed dramatically, hitting that 8% incline there. Perhaps a little bit of poor gear selection, and he has been dropped, and Will Usher and Wayne have re-caught Shrubsall, and Wayne there putting the power in up this incline, goes past, and I think he's going to carry on to the Gilbert and Wainwright riders there. say Shrubsoul's been doing some work with Will Usher recently, improving his FTP, and it looks like it's paid dividends with the position that he's got in this race at the moment. Darren Ray in 20th position, taking it a little bit easier now. Been riding fantastically through the first half of this course. Back with Walker and Shane. We've got Faze back there. De Jong, Hurst, Mackie and Forster. Rhea and McFly Vetta, Aldrich and Pedro Apiago there. Don't know why I put that accent on for Pedro Apiago. They're Welsh, I'm not sure where that accent comes from. That pronunciation. Hazard there, Pedro, Clements. Grouping now of Smith, Steve-O, Barry Wilson and Barbosa. Harrison, 39th position. Bev Usher and Robin Druitt there. Have Taya, one of the bots for company. Bot group behind them. Another group of bots there, lining up across the road. Paulie in 75th position. And you see Silvestri there, Portuguese rider in 76th. Just sighted Macaulay. Murray, 79th position. I think we've had a rider drop out there. Fly back up to the front again to see this battle. Marty, Ludlow and Bovary fighting hard. Bovary there, saving only 7 watts on these uphill sections. Marty trying desperately to open up a gap on them now. So before these can be quite tricky sections because they don't allow you to really get into a set tempo. I know that's the idea of the interactive trainers and doing these sort of courses, is the fact that they do force you to change your gears, they do force you to change your tempo, and they make you pay more attention to the course and what you're doing. But it can be hard to just keep the power down if you're constantly changing gear, constantly searching for that right perfect cadence. 35 minutes into the race now, I'm sure there is puddles underneath everybody's turbo trainer. No matter how cold it is, everyone will be punishing themselves trying to get to the front of this race. We're heading now, this is one of my favourite sections of mini descents here, as you're heading down this little section of road towards this hairpin, and at this point you're just considering whether your brake's going to work as you're looking at those gaps between the blocks and whether you're going to end up off the course and heading towards the deep blue. Back into the climbing again. %5 gradient. Marty and Bovary just managing to distance Ludlow now. see on race radio, Boveries, stating that it's asking where the end of this race is, and stating that it's awful. I'm planning on next week to get the interactive comments working on the screen, so you'll be able to check out your opinions on the race during the ride and flag them up on the screen. Dropping back to Martin's 4th position. He's been distanced now 380 metres to the lead group of 3. O'Grady in 5th. Will Deegan and Ollie Perkins still battling away there. To come into one of the new segment sections of RGT. RGT recently increased the number of segments on the courses, all of the real road courses. So you've got more opportunity to get out there on the courses and to test yourself against your previous times. As Perkins puts in a little dig there to recapture O'Grady, and Deegan left chasing. It's 7.2 watts per kilogram. Deegan's recovered the little group and they're back together again. Going into a little bit more steadier gradient, easing off slightly. That guy's been distanced once again. 8th position. Carrying plenty of weight. It's no fun heading up these hills. As I say, I think Guy is cracking on around about 25 kilogram penalty on this course, which, if you think about that, that's a full sack of potatoes that he's carrying in addition to his own body weight of this course. So that's some effort that he's put in to maintain 8th position. Maguire now back in 9th, being chased there by Jones. Got gap back now to Salvato and Lou Gelling. They're back at 11th and 12th position. Lou makes use of that slight gradient there and just passes Salvato. And Wainwright looking like he might catch the pair of them here. 13th position. Bob Marshall back in 14th. Wayne, a little bit of free air between himself and Gilbert, who's quickly closing down that gap. 15th position, 16th position. Now we've got Will Usher. I think it's Kevin Walker of OTR there. Just a little gap behind them. We've got Shrubsall, Forster, Hurst, Mackey. Up and back from them. Darren Ray just dropped a little bit back there. He's got a 125 metre gap. Must be happy with a position of 23rd. It's got 100 metres clear of phase there. Does appear to be Pedro there, just making a little bit of a march. You've seen Darren in the distance, and I think he's looking to catch him, use him as a stepping stone perhaps to the next group in front. Faze De Jong not seeming to respond to that attack by Pedro, just happy to let him go. We are going 27th, and just behind him we've got Shane 28th and Rhea Usher 23rd. Going to jump straight back up to the front again now because we see some distance here. Got Ludlow, Marty, Overy. Now much lower gradients in this section of the course, some descending and some short power climbs to see how this affects it. We've seen Ludlow being affected slightly more than the other riders by the longer climbs. See whether these short power climbs are going to knock him out of this group again. Ludlow taking the lead going up into this climb. You may have noticed that the riders underneath the name have a power bar or a power indicator. Different colours through the indications there. Ludlow is into the deep red there, the bright red, fluorescent almost, which is high above FTP. It's high above your threshold. It's a period of power that you can only maintain for a short period of time. Red, next power band below that. Yellow, I think that's tempo. Green is your everyday power that you can stick with, and then you've got blue and pale blue going down into the relaxed sections of power. You see the riders there, Ludlow and Bovary, both in the blue. Marty was putting out some power a moment ago there, just to try and catch them up on that descent. We're into a 11% descent here, just eased off slightly. It's very hard to catch riders when you're descending. They've got natural speed gifted to them by gravity. You've paid for it on the way up, you get it free on the way down, and you've almost got terminal velocity on the way down, so it's very hard to catch a rider. See Ludlow, Bovary there, both hitting the power as we're coming back into this 9.5% gradient. This is the last section of the course. This is the hairpins up to the Formentor lighthouse. See it just there as we see that Bovary is distancing Ludlow. Bovary is gone. He's up round that hairpin. And Ludlow not able to respond. As you see, Marty is now managing to close in somewhat on Ludlow. Just go straight up to Bovary there. As we see him coming up, he's putting in all his matches. He's burning the full book as he goes over the finish line. Ludlow coming through. Marty trying desperately to close him down, but it looks like Ludlow's going to keep second place here. Marty just not having that last little sprint to close Ludlow down, and Ludlow making it all the way up there, just easing off slightly before the line as Marty comes through third position. Drop back to the next rider on the road, Martins, who was up with that group, back in fourth position. And this is looking like a definite fourth position for Martins as he comes into these hairpins and grinds to a halt, searching for the right gear. Perkins and Deegan 50 meters back, but they are putting in the effort now. They can see Martins needs to realize the danger that he's in here. He's got riders closing him down. He cannot relax. He needs to put in all the effort now to maintain his fourth position. Oh, I think he's blown. Martins is blown as we see Perkins and Deegan come round, locked in battle, and they've passed him. Perkins and Deegan fighting for fourth and fifth position here. Perkins putting everything on the line. Deegan still battling on. Has Perkins gone too early now? Only a few meters left of this race. 95 meters. Perkins goes again. He's pushing hard. He wants this. He wants this position. And he's going to take it. He's going to come through in fourth position with Deegan coming through in fifth. We drop back there. Martins didn't quite have it at the end. I thought he'd got enough gap over Perkins and Deegan there, but Perkins and Deegan were motoring when it came to the end of that race. Battling hard between themselves, and they overhaul Martins. O'Grady coming through in seventh position. just hearing on race radio now. I'm not sure. I think Will Usher may have had to pull out there. He's actually broken his bike, which I know he put out a lot of power, but wasn't expecting that. Maguire 8th position. He's being chased by a guy in 9th. It's looking like Maguire's managed to keep the distance there, and he's going to come through 8th position over Guy. As I say, Guy has always been carrying quite a weight penalty in these races, and the weight penalty does kick in massively when you hit the inclines, and we're up at 6%. After you've had all those climbs on this race and you've battled hard, so he was way back in the field earlier on, Guy, to get back to 9th position. It's great riding. See Jones there, he's sleeping as Wainwright comes up 11th position. He's overtaken Jones. Is Jones going to respond? Wainwright sprinting all the way to the line. Jones unable to put it down there. Comes through in 11th position. We see Salvato and Lou Gelling here. I'll be intrigued to see this battle as we're coming onto these slopes. 6.6%. I'm expecting Lou to reel Salvato in here. I'll wait and see whether I'm right. Salvato, you can see he's going into his bright red power band there. He's pushing out 5.9 watts per kilogram. He's up out of the saddle and sprinting. He wants 12th position. He wouldn't be happy with 13th. Fighting all the way to the end. He comes through in 12th. Lou in 13th. And Gilbert there, just nearly overwhelming. 14th, 15th, Walker. 16th, Mackie. 17th position, just in front of Rob Marshall. We've got Forster. Marshall comes through in 18th, and then we're back with Wayne in 19th. Not much gapping at all here between the riders. Shrubsall's coming through in 20th position. Drop back now, we've got Pedro in 21st position. He's just ahead of Hurst. I think it's Ian Hurst on the road there. Pedro battling, putting down the power, making sure he keeps in 21st position there as Hurst comes in. He just rolls in those last 30 metres. Darren Ray with Iago just behind him. Darren having a fantastic race tonight. 23rd position currently. Will he be able to hold off Iago? He's putting in. He's getting his matches out and he's lighting them one by one as he's going up this climb. 6 watts per kilogram there. Iago putting in the effort, but not quite closing him down. Darren coming up to the finish line, eases off, comes over and secures 23rd position. Iago in 24th, just ahead of Shane, 35 metres clear. So as I was saying before, one of the benefits of the PRT handicap competition is that you're not miles away from the winners of this race. The handicap does keep it tight. Sorry, I didn't mention De Jong just came over there. I see Hassart in 27th position. Kay Fays in 28th. Only 22 metres separating them as Hassart puts in his sprint now. Pushing out 4.1 watt per kilogram there. Hazard coming over in 27th position. Faze in 28th. Aldrich, who I think was a late starter, he's pushing out 6 watts per kilogram there, coming up in 29th position. And he's 65 metres clear of K McFly. Fly comes through in 30th. And dropping back a little bit there, we've got Rhea Usher, PRT. And then we've got, I think this is one of the biggest gaps that we've had so far in these results. We've got Clements back in 32nd. 230 metres back. Clement's 32nd. Lazar 33rd. Harrison in 34th. And Barbosa in 35th, with Barry Wilson chasing hard. Barbosa's putting down the watts now. Barry battling on, but I think he's left it a little bit too late. 40-meter gap there. Barry coming over in 36th. Drop back to Tom Smith. Tom Smith, Team Lou. Great ride from him. You see Bevisher entering these slopes and laying down his sprint. His distance, Robin Druitt there. 5 watts per kilogram. Be happy to have finished in that time. Some fantastic times coming in tonight from this race. See Robin in 39th position there. Great racing by all tonight. As I say, if you've seen anybody that you think's been racing fantastically on the stream, head over to the Facebook group. Get your combativity award in there. See Robin Druitt there coming over in 39th position. We'll just drop back. We still have a couple of live riders back out on the course here. Stevo, 67th position here. Just come down this final fast descent. Getting his breath back. For anyone who does the return journey, this is always the worst section for myself. You get to the lighthouse, you have your coffee, you have a real nice chill out and a chat with your friends, and then you jump back on the bike, cold, stiff. Enjoy these few hairpins down from the lighthouse, and then whack straight into that climb. Here's Steve-O now. Not happy that Zoe's passed him there. Climbing back past Zoe. Around this hairpin. All the times that I've visited Mallorca and been to Cap Formentor, this has always been extremely parked up and congested down this section. It's always been a little bit sticky for getting up there on your bike. Been cars coming down the wrong side of the road and doing all sorts because they've come here to park and enjoy the lookout and the cafe at the top. But I have been told in recent years they've actually stopped you going as far up, so you have to park further down on the wider sections of the road and walk if you want to make it up to this area, which makes it a lot safer for cyclists. So I hope that's correct. I've not had a chance to get back out there. See Steve-O coming in. 67th position, putting in 5.6 watts per kilogram, overhauling Edwin there to get 67th position. That's fantastic riding in the last moment there. Got back on the road, we've got Murray back on the road. We've got Macaulay. I think Murray might have dropped out. I don't think I've accidentally missed him. And just hearing news through on the race radio, and I think it might be Stuart Ludlow, who was one of the attacking riders there. He's possibly maybe disqualified because he's accidentally missed his handicap weight. So I think that might mean that Ollie Perkins, everyone's been bumped up one place. I think Ollie Perkins may have just moved into 3rd position, which, if I remember rightly, will be his first podium finish on the handicap race, which is fantastic. Got Macaulay there, just entering the last section of this race with Silvestri, just jumping into the descent. Go back and see Macaulay handling these hairpins, these last few hairpins up to the lighthouse lookout. Macaulay now. $100 to the finish. '77th position. I think he's still going to bring it in under the hour, which is a fantastic time for the Camp Formentor course. Macaulay safely home. Drop back there, we've got Silvestri in 78th position. See there, coming around that hairpin, 10% gradient. Not the most enjoyable bit to be cycling after you've put it all on the line, keeping up with the riders all the way through this course. Some severe inclines on the Cap Formentor ride. Of course, if you're riding this as a real road in RGT, when you ride to the end, it doesn't end like it is on the races. When you get to the end, your avatar will turn around and you can bounce straight back and do the course in the other direction. It's a completely different ride to ride it in the other direction. Feels totally different, and it's like riding a different course basically. If you're not quite able to ride all the way to the end of the ride, one of the things that you can do to experience it differently is you can use the ride with feature. So if you go into the app and you pick one of the riders that's near the end of the course, you can jump into the course with them and ride from where they are. So you don't have to ride the whole way to the end of the course to enjoy it in the reverse. You can jump in with a rider that's at the end and ride back with them. Or if you wanted to do hill repeats, you can just ride up over the first climb and use the turnaround button and come back and hit again. Silvestri coming in 78th position, and that's going to be the end of the PRT handicap race. It's been a fantastic race again. These races occur every Thursday night, 7 PM UK time, open to all. We do ask that you do a recent FTP test and work out your weight handicap based upon that. More often than not, your FTP will have been worked out for you automatically by the RGT software. So if you go into your settings, you can get to your FTP within there and find out what it is and get yourself set up for the ride. But all are welcome. There are moderated results put out at the end on Facebook. So as I say, Will goes through all of the riders and checks that everyone has been playing by the rules and eliminates anyone that hasn't been. So you can be assured of getting a legitimate result, but it isn't always about the result in these races. It's more about the fact of whether you've got the combativity award. It's voted for by all of the riders and much more important than winning the race. So that's it for tonight. If you've enjoyed the stream, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. Helps us to put on more streams for you and lets us know that we're doing something right. And we really enjoy doing this for you. We'll catch you next week. There's loads more features, loads more films, videos on the VCN YouTube site, and there's loads of stuff if you go on the Facebook page as well. There's loads of stuff in there. We are bringing to you shortly a video with Will Usher himself in there. Talks about PRT, RGT, training in general. It's a fantastic video. I enjoyed doing it with Will so much that we actually ended up talking for the best part of an hour. So I've had to split it into 3 different sections to make it into bite-sized chunks for everybody to enjoy. And they'll be posted up soon, and there'll be share links in the Facebook group and now on the WhatsApp group as well. So that's it for tonight. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.